candidates, and I'll ask the clerk then to call the roll, please.
Mr. Biondo. Mr. Booker.
Here.
Mr. Boomer. Here. Mrs. Crosby.
Here.
Mr. Fellers.
Here.
Mr. Felucia.
Here.
Mr. Girl.
Present.
Mrs. Goro.
Present.
Mr. Hoffman.
Present.
Mr. Jury.
Present.
Mr. Kelly.
Here.
Mr. McDonald.
Present.
Mr. Nicolosi. Mrs. Red.
Present.
Mr. Salgado. Mr. Schultz.
Here.
Mr. Tassoni.
Present.
Mr. Webster. Mr. Westcott.
Present.
Mr. Wilson.
Present.
16 present, 4 absent.
Thank you, Clerk McCall. Appreciate that. With that, I will ask everybody to stand for the prayer and pledge and turn things over to Mrs. Wright. Mrs. Wright.
Thank you, Father. We ask that you help us to balance this budget. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
I allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good job.
Good evening, everybody. We do not have any public speakers this evening, so we'll move on to our next item, board member correspondence. Any questions, comments by board members? Mr. Girl.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd just like to send some prayers out east. Everybody out there, hopefully they stay safe and sound over here the next few days. So prayers out east. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In addition to that, I'd like to add that there's been 5 ambulances from our county that's been dispatched to stand by. I thought that was unique, or something I want to bring to the board to let you guys know that the reaches of Hurricane Florence are reaching us all the way up here in Winnebago County.
Thank you, Mr. McDonald. Any other comments by board members? Seeing none, we'll move on quickly to the chairman's report. I appreciated Mr. Jury, Mr. Wilson, I think Mr. Vanderwerth, and of course Mrs. Pascal, among other staff members who attended the burner groundbreaking today. 675,000 square feet, $25 million investment. Very proud that the county board was part of that project. I wanted to add one more thing that gets lost in some of our discussions. Next week, when you talk about economic development, there's a tier 1 auto manufacturer coming to visit 4 locations inside Winnebago County. Is that a guarantee? Absolutely not, but they have 200 or 300 jobs that would come with that if we landed. We're competing for a great opportunity. In the last few years, we've had $1.5 billion of healthcare investment inside Winnebago County. Year to date, we have $160 million in new investment. We have 1.8 million in square feet of new and renovated space. The Barbara Coleman project, they are about ready to finalize the lease between Rock Valley and the city, and there will be an advanced technology center, I think, in one of the most strategically important parts of our region. The airport continues to land projects. They've added 1,000 jobs the last year, and they're looking at another 1,000 jobs projected the next 12 months. Long way of saying is there are some good things going on from a development standpoint, and I'm missing, of course, a lot of the work that our municipal partners are doing in their villages and cities related to projects inside their walls that are very positive as well. Does that solve every problem we have? Absolutely not, but we want to celebrate what is truly good. I would just add this, there's been certainly, as is this time of year, a lot of discussion around budget. Appreciated a lot of the discussions I've had with board members, appreciated the discussion we had the other night. I would reiterate a point that we made last Thursday that I want you to consider. The point is this. Last year we made some very tough decisions, came in and had to make some very tough cuts. This year we still have a budget gap. It's well documented, well covered by our media and all our friends. There is a gap we need to fill. At the same time, we have services we need to provide. I still believe and it's unpopular in a lonely place to be the person with this position. We cannot solve this with a one-dimensional approach of just cutting. We cannot just spend our way out of it. We cannot just reserve spend our way out of it. I completely understand that, and although I wish otherwise, we cannot just consolidate or reform or tweak things internally to get through it as well. It will probably, at the end of the day, be best long-term if we take all four approaches in some degree that we can find unity and in some type of consensus around. I would also thank the board members who were at the joint caucus the other night. I think we talked about a lot of tough issues, and we talked through them, and there were multiple points of view, and we kept talking. And that's the only way this stuff gets solved. Some of the people I've learned a lot from on this board are the people who disagree with me, and they keep talking to me through their perspective, and I've learned a lot from that. So I do appreciate, although it's tough, the conversations that are going on. I would reiterate that we've made great progress in talking about financial realities of continuing to do business maybe the way we were. We had to make some changes. We are also dealing with service impact when we make these financial decisions. Marrying them together is very difficult. And I look forward to the discussion the next couple of weeks. But I appreciate all of you, whether you've agreed or disagreed with any of the different budget narratives that have been floating around. I do appreciate that. With that, I'll turn things over to Carla for the County Administrator's Report. I think we have a couple of different topics to hit tonight. Carla, you're up.
Okay, first I'm going to introduce Brett Frazier. He's our new Animal Services Administrator. He's been on the job for about 4 weeks, but I feel like he's done about 4 months of work. So I asked him to come to the meeting tonight and kind of overview some of the changes that are in the near future for you.
Thank you very much. Well, first, I wanted to introduce myself. I know I had a chance to speak with a couple folks both in this room and other parts of the community. And thank you, as a county board, for allowing me to come and work for Animal Services and for Winnebago County. As Carla mentioned, it's been 4 weeks, but it has been a busy 4 weeks. As you can imagine, there's a lot to get a handle on. There's a lot of opportunities to improve things that we're doing at Animal Services. And first, have to get to know the department. A couple of things specifically that I wanted to update you on. Starting out, we've got 2 primary principles that are going to guide our decision making and the changes that we'll create at Animal Services. The first is our goal of providing excellent and friendly service to the citizens of Winnebago County and to anyone who comes in contact with our department. And the second goal is to provide excellent care to the animals that come into our custody. That's really what we do there. We take care of people and we take care of animals. We serve a number of different functions, but they all more or less stem from those couple ideas. With those in mind, we'll also be trying to operate a department that is both efficient and effective, serving our mission and serving folks here in the county. Just today, we took a very big step towards what will ultimately be some important operational shifts in Animal Services. We had a leadership meeting with some folks who are from a shelter medicine program, a national shelter medicine program, and we are making plans to implement some operational changes later this month or early in October that will really go to those 2 principles. We are seeking opportunities to run efficiently. We're seeking opportunities to implement best practices and strong shelter theory. And our primary goal is to decrease the amount of time that animals spend at Animal Services. That obviously has an impact on the warm fuzzy part of Animal Services, but it also importantly has a huge impact on the dollars and cents of running our department. So later this month, we will be doing an all-staff meeting where we will talk about a lot of new ideas in shelter theory, focusing on length of stay and our capacity for care at the shelter. And then our intention is to retrain on 9 specific areas of our operations with all staff. And hopefully, if all goes to plan, the community will notice a difference, the pets will notice a difference in our care, and that will be just the first step. So don't want to take up too much time. I know you have a busy agenda tonight, but wanted to introduce myself, let you know a little bit of what we're doing. If anyone has questions or concerns or thoughts, we're over there on North Main Street. You're welcome to stop by anytime or get in touch. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Sure, yeah, Carla reminds me, our all-staff meeting will probably be a couple-day event. It's likely, and we haven't planned it yet, that we will close all but essential services on those 2 days. The retraining really is going to be fairly thorough. So we'll make sure that we communicate that to everyone, make sure we communicate well to the community. But the goal is to make some big, important changes all at once, rather than trickling them out over a long period of time. Thanks for that reminder. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. You all have a handout of my PowerPoint presentation. I thought tonight I'd just overview a few items that are going to affect our budget, short-term and long-term. Can you make it? Thank you. Okay, over the weekend, the chairman and I were talking about the debt that the county currently has outstanding. This schedule focuses only on the general fund and public safety sales tax fund because that most directly affects our operating budget. The first column, or the second column, is the debt service that we have to transfer out to our bond funds every year. So for fiscal year 19, between the two funds, we will transfer out almost $8.8 million for debt service. That actually takes money out of our operating budget in order to repay those outstanding bonds. As you go down, you'll see there's a reduction in fiscal year 2020 of approximately $700,000. Were some bonds outstanding for the case management over in the courts that will be retired in fiscal year 19, so that'll free up a little bit of money from that debt service. However, most likely in fiscal year 2020, we will be issuing some debt for the PSB demolition. Based on our cost estimates, I feel like the debt service, if we amortize that over a 10-year period, will be almost $1.1 million a year. We could extend that over a longer period of time, but since it's just a demolition, I'm not sure. We'll have to weigh the benefit of extending that out over a longer period of time. So if you go down the debt service column, you'll notice in fiscal year 24, the debt service spikes up to $11 million for fiscal year 24 and 25. When the jail debt was refinanced a few years ago, it was going to be occurring in a two-stage process. Because part of the bonds weren't callable until 2022, we won't be able to refinance a portion of the debt until then. And so the amount that's $11 million should even out, but then they'll become, the payments later on will become a little bit higher, but I don't know those amounts at this time. We'll want to make sure we keep our debt rating as healthy as possible, because when we go to issue that debt, we'll want to make sure the interest rate is as low as possible. I also wanted to mention that because we don't have a capital fund where we've set money aside, we've handled all our capital needs by issuing bonds. So until we're able to establish a reserve for capital, our upcoming capital needs will result in additional bonding. And therefore, even though this is the debt schedule at current status, that could change as our capital needs change. Okay, the next schedule is our tax levy. I just wanted to kind of overview how I came up with the tax levy that's included in your budget book this year. The 2017 levy is where I started. For all levies, it's a total of a little over $39 million. None of our levies are at their max rate, so we have room to shift between individual levies. And what I found was that our county detention home levy had not been raised in a number of years where our costs had been increasing. So because our IMRF rate went down 2% this year, I was able to shift some money from our IMRF and then our Social Security levies over to the county detention home to kind of address their escalating expenditures. We're also a little short on the museum levy, which is the Memorial Hall, and then the Children's Advocacy. So I shifted a few dollars over that way to make sure that those funds balanced, and we'll try to manage those better in the future. The proposed 2018 levy as presented here does not include any new growth increase or the CPI increase, so those can change based on what the board decides to do with the levy. I don't have a schedule on this, but I had our finance staff working on, I had presented what the levy would be if we took the full CPI and new growth. That increase was a little over $6 million over the next 3 years. The salary increases for fiscal year 19 are included in the fiscal year 19 budget. We did an estimate. All our contracts will be expired at the end of fiscal year 19. But if we computed an increase based on the 2% that we're proposing for non-union staff and that the FOP contract currently is at, over fiscal year 20 and 21, we would have increases of $4.3 million. So taking the CPI and new growth just kind of keeps us level with our salary increases.
Could you just back up? I may have missed this and I apologize. Could you repeat that last part? Over what period of time do you see a $4 million increase again?
20 and 21, and then we have the amount included in fiscal year 19. But when you have an increase, say if the increase is $1.5 million in fiscal year 19, then it compounds for 19, 20, and 21.
And that's based on what items, salary, projected salary increases?
Correct.
Just salary increases?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
And it's an estimate because we don't know where those contracts will settle. Okay, I know the county miscellaneous budget's a little nebulous because it's hard to understand exactly what's in there, and I wanted to go through each line item, kind of explain what's in there. The amounts included in the county miscellaneous budget are amounts that affect departments countywide and don't really relate to one individual department. For fiscal year 19, we're proposing a budget of about $9.2 million. The first line item is our health insurance. We manage our health insurance costs administratively. They're not put in the different departmental budgets. Our hope is that we can manage those, and as we build a surplus in the health insurance fund, then we can try to manage it where if we have departures of employees, that helps the county overall rather than individual departments. The next line, the contingency budget, is the estimate of the personnel increases for departments that don't have a settled union contract. We don't want to put those dollars in the departments. We want to kind of control when they shift over based on when the contract settles. The supply budgets are the supplies that are used for code hearing. Other departmental supplies are memorials and get well gifts that we might give. We tend not to use that. I think this year we're significantly under budget in that line item. The legal expense planned is for expenses related to union negotiations. Hopefully we won't have any other legal expenses this year. The hardware maintenance relates to our siren maintenance. We took that over in the IT department last fiscal year. The software subscription, most of the software subscriptions I had put in the individual department budgets, but DevNet is our tax software, and it's used by the treasurer, the recorder, and the supervisor of assessments, so I put it in this budget since it related to more than one department. We moved over the Rockford 911 intergovernmental agreement payments because we feel with the 911 decisions that are going to be made, we'll probably have a change in that agreement and we'll be involved in administration in negotiating whatever agreement we come to with the city.
And if we can avoid any misunderstanding, because I saw a raised eyebrow, exactly what is that and what is it not related to 911?
It is because Rockford has some call takers and the county is responsible for call taking. We pay them for 4.6 equivalent, full-time equivalent call takers. It's roughly $48,000 a month.
Okay. Thank you. I see Tammy nodding her head. I want everybody to know we're on the same page on that one.
Other professional services are wind cart volunteer hours, code hearing, indigent cremation, municipal code maintenance, which is our county code, and then actuarial services for the audit and for the pension bonds that we're currently involved in. The administrative training is the training for all our professional staff in order to maintain our certifications and keep up to date on different requirements. We need to have some individuals trained throughout the year. We pay for our employee parking. We pay for towing that's associated with a revenue stream we charge for towing. Printing and binding relates to budget books, supplies, and forms that the county uses countywide. Advertising is for bid advertising. The electricity line item is for the sirens, the electricity that goes to the sirens. Instruction and schooling is the educational reimbursement we offer employees. I think they're eligible for $350 a year. Taxes and license fees relates to the revenue stamps purchased by the county recorder. Other unclassified is the forced mowing, when we're required to mow properties that the owners don't take care of the mowing on the properties. And data processing equipment, we reserved $100,000 for any emergency capital needs throughout the county. That's a lot lower number than we've had in previous years. Any questions?
One thing I'd suggest, because especially during budget time, you'll see comments made, and certainly we don't want to be making decisions based on Facebook, but you'll see somebody grab onto the administrative budget and make conclusions that are simply not accurate about how business is being done. One of the things, since we have a good, I think a good cadence with our finance committee, is this coming year, we'll ask Carla to give a couple times in the course of the year an update on this specific budget, because it has a lot of nuance in it, and it's a lot of different simple things that make sense, and that way our finance committee and the board as a whole is very comfortable with everything going in and out. Again, each of these items makes sense. They're being spent as directed by the board, and we can provide updates as we will in a number of other areas. So thank you very much, Carla. Any other questions by board members? Mr. McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Would it be possible to get a copy of the IGA that we have with the City of Rockford for 911? Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Yes, Mr. Grohl.
Thank you, Chairman. Is it possible if Carla or your staff could figure out maybe a 5 or 7 year plan, what it looks like on paper with the actual union contracts and the increases to salaries? If we do not raise revenue, exactly how much money will we be looking at in about 6 to 8 years that we would have to cut if this board decides to not raise revenue? With the increasing cost of salaries and health insurances, I think we just saw a preview in the 2 years exactly what this county will look like financially if we do not find revenue. So if we can just kind of get like a kind of something, just anything, that would be great to look at just to see those numbers. Thank you.
I think one of the things that hit me very hard in this process is the increase on the healthcare side. If our health insurance fund was a department, it would be the second largest department at the county, and there's an increase every year, and it's not a teeny one. Usually larger, at least that's my impression, year to year compared to even salary increases. But yeah, I think it's a very good point. Yes, sir, follow.
Thank you. Maybe here in the next few months or next year, we can look at maybe expanding out our health insurance to cover different departments, different municipalities, so we can have one large pool for health insurance. The more people in there, the cheaper it will be. If we can look at something like that, I don't know if it's even possible, but you know, we're going to have to do something. The salaries, the health insurance will eat up the budget. The pension debt, if we don't do anything with that, will eat up the budget. We're seeing Illinois falling way behind. And we need to be the leaders here, so there has to be something that we can do on the health insurance, so we can look at that.
Thank you, Mr. Gurl, appreciate it. Next item of business is the standing committee reports. We're here tonight because of an important topic that's timely. I want to thank Mr. Jury in particular for helping us expedite this when we knew we needed to run this through this evening. So we'll turn it over to Mr. Jury for the Operations and Administrative Committee.
Thank you, Chairman Haney, and I would just like to say again what a great thing that was this afternoon, this morning, out on Route 39. You know, we hear the bad news, and this is good news, where they're going to be hiring people that are going to work and pay taxes. We haven't done much of that, but I see things changing around. We're going to talk about Costco's, we're going to talk about the things the chairman said. We need to worry more about bringing cameras here and collecting sales tax dollars to help us with the budget. That's all I'm going to say. Thank you. I was going to be very brief, but Tiana gave me something that may take me a couple hours, so just bear with me. We have 3 resolutions before you this evening. They're all dealing with the county clerk's office, elections, hours of operation, and holidays. And if it would please the board, I would like to take all 3 at once, and I move to their adoption.
So we have a motion by Mr. Jury on under Operations Administrative Committee items 2, 3, and 4, resolution to appoint precinct election judges, resolution to change hours of the county clerk's office on election day, resolution amending county holiday schedule for 19. Got a second by Mr. Westcott, Mr. Wilson, Mrs. Gorel, Mrs. Crosby, Mr. Hoffman, and Mr. Boomer, I think. With that, any comments, questions in Mrs. Rudd? Second from Mrs. Rudd as well. Any other questions or comments on these 3 items? Appreciate the board giving us some time to get this through tonight. I know it was an extra stop in your schedule today. Really do appreciate that. That helps us keep things on track. No discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously for 2, 3, and 4. Mr. Jury.
Thank you. If all of you want to take a look at this, this is the questions on the ballot. They all read what we said they would, so if you want to take a look at the county clerk's office, they're there for you. Thank you. I would say one thing, you know, as we go to bed tonight, I would ask all of us to say a prayer for the people that are in harm's way with this tremendous hurricane, and pray for the best. I know there's a lot of the first responders already on their way. We just pray that too many people don't lose their lives. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jury. Any unfinished business by board members? Any new business by board members? Yes, Mrs. Gorel.
Hi there. Thank you. On your desk, you found from the Winnebago County Health Department a letter from Dr. Martell, and I do wish you all will take this very serious. You know, you're talking about the floods, and you're talking about, thank God we don't live on the ocean, because how many of you are even aware of the fact that the health department is a big part of, it would be, what I want to say, if we have any type of catastrophe here of any kind, this even means the serious flooding problems we could have off the Rock River. Your health department is one of the first people to go to action in regards to the health and the care of Winnebago County. Please take this note from Dr. Martell seriously. because we still don't have all the monies we need to do what we have to do. So read it over, understand it, and there's questions you need to ask, a whole lot of questions, because many of you have no clue of how much the health department covers. And it would be to your benefit to know that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Burrell. And thank you, Dr. Martell, for being here tonight. Also, Chief Judge being here. Appreciate that. With that, no other new business. I entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion by Mr. Gurl, second by Mr. Wilson, Mrs. Crosby, Mr. Boomer. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Have a good night. Thank you very much.
This is